basically like held me in this office for 4 hours, took my passport. They were like, you have to come back in the morning and pick it up once we decide like whether or not to basically deport you. I was like, so I'm telling all my friends at home, like, I'm being deported, guys. I am being deported from Norway. How does this happen?
I don't think you've ever told me how you started getting interested in travel in the first place and how you started photography and videography.
Well, I was telling Mary, I have this blog post on my website that's called, like, it all started with a Volkswagen camper van, which is kind of true. Like, my parents met in Colorado, and they always took us on lots of outdoor adventures, like mountain biking, skiing, camping. And then when I was 9 years old, they took us out of the country for the first time for 6 weeks, and we traveled throughout Italy, Spain, France, Switzerland, Austria, Germany, like whole big European trip. And we rented like this small little Volkswagen camper van, and it was red. I feel like I need to say that it's red because that just adds to the vibe. And that was kind of the first time that I had gotten to experience new cultures. Like, I got to experience new languages and foods, and obviously we spent most of the time in Italy because my dad's side of the family is very Italian. So I, like, 9-year-old me was just so mind blown by the food and how nice the people were. I loved trying to speak Italian, and Italians are very nice to kids. So they always had a great time with me and my brother, and like my brother was 3 at the time. But yeah, that was kind of when I like really experienced a whole new world from what I was used to, and I just like fell in love with travel. And I'm so lucky that my parents took us all over when we were kids and just got us used to being uncomfortable and trying new things and knowing that like things don't always go as planned, and if it doesn't work out, like, you figure it out. So I was just very lucky to travel a lot with my parents. And then I knew I really loved travel, and then when high school was over, it was kind of like COVID time frame for both of us, I guess, and I was just kind of like, I'm ready to do something different. Like, I don't want to be locked down for my first year of college. I don't want to be just sitting there doing nothing, and I always wanted to travel, so I found this program like pretty last minute, I would say, and I was just like, yep, that's perfect, because I couldn't decide whether I wanted to study abroad in Paris or go to Thailand and go to Costa Rica, or if I wanted to intern in some big city or something. Like, I just, I'm so indecisive about what I want to do, and I feel like I have all these personalities, and just, I love everything. So a gap year was a great way of like getting 5, or like just not even 5, like so many different experiences, endless experiences, and like just getting to know myself in a different way. So yeah, and that's kind of when photography started for me, I guess. I just really loved capturing the places I was in, and then always really looked up to the photographers and videographers I followed on Instagram and YouTube and stuff, and I was like, well, this is maybe a way that I can keep traveling. Like, maybe this is my ticket into this world. So yeah, that's kind of where it all started. And like in the past couple years, I've been getting more into videography for sure, because I really love it. I think it tells a lot more of a story, and yeah, it's allowed me to travel a little bit, and very, very happy about that. So yeah, that's the story.
That's so interesting. I also haven't heard many embarrassing stories that happened while you were traveling.
Yeah, so I think I told you this whole story, but like a few months ago, I went to work at a hostel up in the north of Norway called the Lofoten Islands. I feel like a lot of people who love travel and photography especially definitely know of it. And I had just been wanting to go there for years. So I found this workaway up north, and I stayed at a hostel. I did some video photo work for them, other little things around to help out with the business, and they gave me free accommodation, food. Um, so once I got there, it was really, really great experience. Getting there was a little bit of a weird situation. I got to customs in Norway, and I never really say anything to customs because I feel like they can just be so harsh sometimes, and they ask you these questions, like these leading questions. And it was just a 10-hour travel day, and I was so tired, and the lady at the front desk asked me, like, what are you doing in Norway? And I said, I'm staying at a hostel up north. And she was like, okay, like, where is the hostel? What are you doing there? And I made the mistake of saying, oh, I'm doing some volunteer work up north for the hostel is called Furu Hostel. And as soon as I said the word volunteer, I was just like, oh my gosh, like, I don't know, there's just something weird about me. I feel like I shouldn't have said that because I know some countries have rules. And she just looked at me like, you can't do that. Like, you can't volunteer. And I just was trying to fight it so much. Like, I'm not volunteering. I was like backtracking. I was like, I'm just staying up there. I'm just doing some photography for my own portfolio. I kept saying, like, my own project. And they did not like that because I had already said volunteer. And so apparently in Norway, you cannot volunteer without a work visa because even though you're not getting paid with money, you're getting compensated through like free accommodation, food, things like that. So they basically like held me in this office for 4 hours, took my passport. They were like, you have to come back in the morning and pick it up once we decide like whether or not to basically deport you. And I was like, so I'm telling all my friends at home, like, I'm being deported, guys. I am being deported from Norway. How does this happen? And so, yeah, so I stayed in Oslo for the night and then took the train in the next morning and they were like, yeah, you gotta leave. And I was like, oh no. So I thought that I was gonna have to go all the way back to the United States, but luckily, since London or England is out of the EU and out of the Schengen zone, I think it's called, I was able to just go back to London. And they had told me, like, because I asked, when can I come back to Norway? Because, obviously I was going to come right back. And they were just like, as long as you leave the border of the EU, like, you can come back whenever you want to. You can come back tomorrow if you want. I was like, okay. Like, I'm not going to say I'm going to do that, but I definitely did do that. So they sent me back to London, and luckily they bought that flight, which was nice. And yeah, so once I got back to London, I just chilled out, tried to find a new flight, which took a couple days because it was kind of a remote area, so it definitely took me a little time to find like a smooth flight back. And yeah, when I got there, it was the joke for a while because, dumb American getting deported from Norway. So, and I was like, I am well traveled, guys. Like, I thought, like, I know these things. I don't say things at customs. I know better. But it was just a long day and I just messed up. So it was not fun in the moment, but it's a funny story, I guess.
So they said that they took your passport and then made a decision overnight, and then
Yeah.
then they said you can have to leave, but you can come whenever. That's confusing to me because I feel like they would either tell you to go back home and you can't come for a certain amount of time, but
That's what I thought.
so then they were just like, oh yeah, you can come, and then you told them that you're just a
And then,
traveler.
yes, because the second time they had that on my file, like what I'd said and whatever. So they were like, customs was much harder on me, like asking me all these questions, like, what are you really doing here? And I was like, I'm just a tourist. And I just said that over and over for like all of the questions they would ask me. What are you doing? Where are you staying? I'm a tourist. I don't know. I'm a tourist. I don't know. I'm just traveling. Like, I just made sure that was all I said. And they definitely looked at me weird because they knew what I was doing, but they let me in because, what are they gonna do? Like, if you don't say anything.
Such a crazy story, though. I can't believe that happened to you. But could you share some of your most memorable stories in Norway from your videography work? Like, also just share about that experience.
Well, that was also a very last minute trip. I reached out to them and they have a lot of volunteers staying there anyway, just to help out with like running the hostel, painting walls, like miscellaneous things. And I wanted to do that as well, but I also was like, oh, maybe they want some video work, like some social media stuff, some website stuff, just to, I think they have a really cool story. So I reached out more from that aspect, like asking if I could exchange video photography work. And they were like, yeah, like, when can you come? And I just said, how about 3 weeks from now? Because it was early February, I think, when I called, or maybe late February, and I wanted to be there in the winter. I wanted to see, or like early spring, I wanted to see the snow melt and I wanted to see the northern lights, especially. So, and I'm a big skier, so I really wanted to experience that in Norway. So, yeah, they were like, come on up. And so when I got there, when I actually got there was 5 other volunteers, and we all lived in little dorms in the hostel. And yeah, it was just so much fun. They have a lot of volunteers there in the off season because there's just a lot of like miscellaneous things that need to be done. And in the summer, they have more paid staff because they have a restaurant and cafe as well. So yeah, it was we had our own little crew of like 6 volunteers and we just had a good time. We worked around the hostel and then would just go on little adventures outside from that. So, like, one of my favorite days, we went surfing and it was snowing, which was super cool. So, and they gave us a car to borrow. So we shared this one little car and all piled into it with the surfboards, which was a struggle, but it was really fun. And so we went to the beach. It was snowing. We rented some wetsuits. And I've never been in a wetsuit before. I've only been surfing, I think, twice ever in my life, too. So I was like, this is going to be cold. Like, it's March. And I was just expecting to be freezing so much. And the wetsuits there are just like, they're so thick. It's like, you feel like a whale, like with the blubber, I guess. And yeah, so it ended up being like really, really warm. And it was just a really fun day of surfing. I got a lot of like really cool drone videos that I'm super happy with from that day. Um, and yeah, it was just absolutely beautiful. And so then later that day, we ended up, I think we went back, we drove home, washed out all the wetsuits, and then we ended up going on like a night hike and camped at the top. This was the day before my birthday, which made it really cool. So we hiked up this mountain kind of close to the hostel. It was probably about a mile hike, so not super long, and brought a bunch of camp stuff, and we just ended up sleeping on the top, like no tents or anything, like just brought all the warm stuff we possibly could, and just slept out underneath the stars. And like before that, we cinnamon buns are, and I won't say how they say it in Norway because I cannot pronounce like the word for like cinnamon roll, but it's not a cinnamon roll like we have here. They're these really good pastries. So we brought some of the dough up and like we made some of those on top of the mountain as well with the fire, and it was just really fun. I think there was like 8 of us up there total. So it was just kind of, yeah, it was a great day. And like that was that night or was the day before my birthday. So it was fun waking up on the mountain for my birthday. And yeah, it was just that was one of the most memorable days. But we also did a lot of like really, really cool things. We did a camping trip once because like a 3-day or 2-day camping trip because they were doing some work at the hostel and we couldn't be there. So we just took the car and found a little shed to camp in. That's the thing with Norway, like you just go off the road and there's like these random shacks, and like there was like this little bike shed thing, and maybe I can include pictures somehow because it was so cool. And yeah, we just kind of slept in there and like nobody cares. There was a little bar in there and cards. We played some cards, a fire pit. Like it was awesome. Yeah, lots of fun little things. It's a cool place.
Wow. Sounds so majestic. Something I would see out of a movie. So, do you ever get to live out your dream of seeing the Northern Lights while you were there?
Oh, yes, of course. I was hoping to see them that night, but it was starting to get a little lighter by that point because it was, I think, late March. But I did see them, or I think that was no, that was April, obviously. My birthday's in April. How could I forget that? Um, I did see them like the first night that I got there, which was incredible. Like I pulled in, it was super cloudy. We went out to this trivia night, and on the drive home, we saw the Northern Lights, which was really, really cool. So we got out, and the others had already seen them 1 or 2 times. But they pulled over for me because I had never seen them. And so I was freaking out. It was really cool. I've been wanting to see Northern Lights my whole life. So yeah, that was amazing. And then I would say like probably 5 or 6 times for real throughout the whole. Like I think there's some times where you see them, but it's not as like dynamic, or it doesn't show through as much, and you kind of have to like use your phone camera to see the colors. But then there were some nights where it was just like, wow, and they move and dance so much. Yeah. So I was so happy that got checked off the bucket list.
Yeah, I was gonna say that seeing the Northern Lights is definitely most people's top 10 bucket list. Do you think they deserve the hype, or were you underwhelmed?
I I think they definitely deserve the hype. It's it's amazing, but I will say like a lot of times you'll see phone photos or camera photos and the somehow like the camera in the phone brings out the color a little bit more. So sometimes like if we couldn't tell if they were happening, we would point our phone up to the sky and like see if they were actually out there because the phone just captures the colors so much better. But like, so those nights, I guess, were more underwhelming, but it's still kind of cool because you see the sky moving and it's kind of white, not as colorful, but I like the white. It was kind of cool. And then when they really were out and it was super colorful, it's just like unparalleled. I feel like, yeah, definitely hyped. Or how did you say that? Definitely worth the hype, I guess.
Wow, that's amazing. I need to go see them. But to me, you're really inspiring because at the age of 18, you not only took the gap year, not knowing anyone, and we're going to travel for 9 months to so many places you've never been, but then you have the courage to just get up and go by yourself to Norway with strangers you don't know. You just went alone and met people there. And I think that's really rare for a lot of people to have that courage when they're only 18, just out of high school. But I think it's a beautiful, wonderful trait to have. Yeah, so what's your advice for overcoming fears of traveling alone if you've never done it before and just not living in fear?
Um, well, first of all, you've done all the same things. So I think that's equally inspiring. Like you moving to Barcelona and studying abroad all by yourself and doing the gap year as well. But I think like maybe what we both could say about this is traveling alone for the first time can be scary, but like what's helped me is knowing when I get to a place that there's gonna be other people. And then I think like as I started getting more comfortable with just little things on my own, like little day trips on my own, then it was easier to just go to like Ireland and meet new people. And then when Norway came around, I didn't know exactly who was going to be there, but I still had some comfort in knowing that there was going to be other volunteers. Like I was going to be staying in a place where there was people, and I guess like I just take a lot of comfort in that. Just I've never done a trip fully solo where I've just backpacked Asia and not known like anybody on my route or who I was gonna meet. Like I think I've always had some sort of security in knowing. Maybe if you are going at it alone for the first time, doing a work away or some sort of program where you know there's going to be people there to greet you on the other side is just that's that makes it a little bit easier in a way, even though you don't know them. It's just like they kind of become your family. And I think like what I would tell anybody is the first couple days sometimes are going to be really hard and you're going to miss home and like because you just don't know anybody and you're not used to the new place that you're in. But it always gets easier after that, and you just have to give it a little bit of time. Yeah, and it makes you stronger on the other side.
I love that. That's such a good point. It's a little scary to go from 0 to 100, so if you take incremental steps, that's really essential.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think like it has to be a step-by-step process, and just like doing something completely on your own, like a day trip or an overnight trip by yourself, can be so confidence boosting because you have to figure everything out for yourself, and like you think about things that you normally wouldn't have to think about. So I think for me, even like living in Colorado and like just doing little camping trips by myself overnight is that's been super beneficial for me because it's like, okay, well now I have to figure out food, water. I have to like obviously on our camping trip I'm always like, Mary, we need to get more water. And I know we have so much water, but like I don't know, it's just something that I feel like I've learned to think about because I've definitely had too little water before. And I don't know, just having to like do everything gives you so much confidence. And I think from there it just becomes easier and easier to like just build and like do more things. Do an overnight trip, do a 2-night trip, and then soon you're like going to Asia by yourself, and you're so confident because you've had to figure those things out before.
Yeah.
And even if you haven't, I would say, like, you're not going to have to figure the same thing out. Like, no train route is going to be the same, no person is going to be the same, but at least you have those skills to, like, problem solve, I guess.
Yeah, that's so true. A good mentality to adopt, I think, is to be comfortable always being out of your comfort zone. And if you just tell yourself, okay, on this trip, these next few weeks, my goal is to always being uncomfortable, doing new things, meeting strangers, going out of your zone, because it gets easier and easier, but then it kind of builds upon itself, because then you start doing harder things, and you either accomplish so much more or have more beautiful in-depth experiences that you wouldn't have gotten by not doing those really hard things. Like, you never really know where it'll lead you. And speaking of getting out of your comfort zone, I think something that's really difficult is starting a freelance career from scratch without any courses or training beforehand, which is kind of what you did with being a photographer and videographer. But I'm curious, since you've been like doing this for a few years, there's so many projects that you've worked on that are so cool to me. I'm like, I always post you in my story, like every time I freak out.
She's support.
She's so cool. But I would love if you could share with the audience what either the most fun project you had that you worked on, or the most entertaining.
I think the Norway project was probably the most fun, and it was just very casual, and that's what I liked about it. I think that I want to focus more in the future on working with small businesses, because I just think they've had to struggle so much, as everybody has with their own business, but they've had to struggle a lot to get it up and running, and it's cool to see that work come through. And it's fun to be a part of that and tell that story for them, and maybe just help their vision come to life. And I love, like, working with people. Like, I have visions of my own, but it's also really fun to hear their visions and they come up with ideas that I never even would have thought of. So that's where I'm still so new to it that I think I'm more open to getting more ideas, because I don't have all of the ideas yet. Like, I don't have my set in stone process for each project. So yeah.
That's so cool. I think Workaway is a really awesome concept, because
me too.
You don't have to, it's not like a typical program where it's really expensive up front. It's just
you just go.
You're just going exchanging for your
and all
service.
You have to do is pay for a flight. And I definitely will say I got really lucky with this one. I think I've heard a lot of stories about people having weird experiences at some. So I think it's a trial and error process, but that's how travel goes anyway. So I don't know.
Really unique. Awesome.
Yeah.
And a good thing I like about Workaways is that I've never done one, but I've looked into it a lot, and I definitely will do one day. Is that a lot of times you stay in small towns and cities that are either remote or just, again, like I said, not a tourist area, and you're usually staying with a family or a small business there, like the hostel, for example. And I think that's a really good way to travel and fully immerse yourself in the culture and just learn from those people. And I just think it's a way more enriching experience when you're immersed in the culture, and every night getting to talk with the family if you're, for example, on a farm or helping them. There's even like babysitting workaways.
Oh yeah, like being an au pair and stuff. Yeah.
Awesome.
I think like what I would say about that is I thought it was so unique that in Norway, because the town we were staying in was very, very small, and Lofoten is a very touristy destination, especially for a lot of photographers, videographers, understandably. But the time of year I went was kind of off season, so I got a different experience. And I think that what was cool was all of us would plan little adventures in the mountains, like go hiking, go camping, and so we would go into those very touristy towns, but instead of like being a tourist there, we would have to go there to like get gas in the car or run errands. So yeah, I think doing a workaway, you get that more local experience because you have to do those basic day-to-day things, and then it's just you're immersed in it in a completely different way. Yeah,
that's so true.
Yeah.
Also, a quick update, change of scenery. We are now in Twin Lakes, and we recorded the previous one at Twin Lakes, our camping spot, and then now we're like obviously down by the lake. It's so beautiful. Yeah, it's so quiet and peaceful here. Another thing that comes to mind is how much fun we had in Ireland last year. I know I was only there for like 11 days, but I'm curious for you if you could choose like just more about your time in Ireland there, some experiences.
Yeah. So I went to Ireland to do an internship program. I was there for 2 months in Galway, which is on the west coast of Ireland. I've always loved it. The first time I went, I was probably 11 years old, and I just fell in love with the culture there. I think they're like the funnest people. They have such amazing music, and they prioritize music over they prioritize it so much in their culture. So I knew I needed to go to Galway because I also knew that a lot of the music and arts happen in that town. And so, yes, I found this program, and I loved it, every little bit of it. It was probably one of my favorite places I've been, just because, like endless pubs with live music playing in every single one, and it's a very casual vibe. You go into a pub and they just play music, sitting around a table, drinking pints of beer, and nothing's really organized. They just kind of start playing, and it's like, I just love how that music is brought into the culture.
One thing that I really love is when he took me to the Crane Bar, and it's been there for years and years and years, and it was so beautiful because I remember we were listening to them play live music. There was a lady with a harp, a man with a guitar, and then I think a singer, and it was like a really old-timey small bar that you were so excited to show me. But then when we were there, I remember the guitarist was saying how he many years ago, a man came in.
You were here for this. Yeah.
The man came in and asked if he could play his new song that I don't think he's played live before, is what he said. And he was like, yeah, of course. And the song ended up being Take Me Home, Country Roads by John Denver. I think it's so crazy that he came in many years ago and like saw it, and showed everyone his song. And then it was so cool because he started playing John Denver's song, Take Me Home, Country Roads, and everyone in the bar was like singing, and I remember videoing. Everyone there was like so into it.
So cool how much of a worldwide song it is. Like wherever you go, people sing along. Yeah, I forgot about that. That's so funny you were there, because the main guy the main guitarist, like that grouping or like that band came in every week and played on like Thursday nights or whatever. And so he'd just been playing there for years and years, and the bar was old as it is. So it was so cool that he like got to meet John Denver. Yeah, that's amazing.
And before he was famous, Yeah,
exactly.
So cool.
Yeah. I'm really curious to learn more about where you're headed next, and I know you've had some crazy adventures over the years as well. And you need to do like a little intro podcast just about your life, because it's so kind of crazy as well. But yeah, I'm curious to know like where you're headed next too.
Like physically headed, or like with my
goals? Sorry.
Yeah.
Goals and physical.
Yeah. That's a good question. I'd say my main focus is developing the podcast, because my big dream is to interview people in all different continents, and travel to their hometowns or wherever they're living, and get to explore their town while interviewing them.
I love that. I'm so excited to see who you get to interview, and just their stories and where it takes you, because I think like I love how you were like, let's go do something outside. Like it just makes it so much more comfortable and interesting, and like I think it shows off like our personalities, and it's cool because this is where I'm from. So I'm really excited to see who you interview and where. I think it'll be a really cool journey.
Thank you, Siena.
Yeah, of course.
But lastly, if people want to keep up with you and follow your projects, where should they? How should they connect with you?
Instagram is obviously very helpful. My Instagram account got hacked last year, so I'm still trying to build up some of the old community I had. But my Instagram is Shots by Siena, and I think you'll put it in like the notes at the bottom, because my name is spelled a little weird, but and then my website is the same as the username, but just www.shotsbysiena.com. All my photography, video work is on there, portfolio basically. And just like a little bit about me, some blog posts, stuff like that. So yeah, those would be the two for sure.
Well, thank you so much. I'm so happy that we got to do this.
I know, this was so cool.
And
in
guys,
such a cool location, right?
and should we tell them what we're doing for the rest of the day?
Oh yes, we should, because we have a very fun day planned. Well, we've had good days so far. But we are at Twin Lakes, which is very close to a town called Buena Vista. If anybody has been to Colorado before. And so I think we're gonna go get some breakfast burritos, some coffee, walk around town a little bit, and then we'll head on over to Breckenridge later today. And I know a really good camp spot there. So I think we're gonna go car camping again.
Day 3.
Yeah, day 3. Yeah.
It's been so fun. But yeah, well, thank you so much, and hopefully we'll see you again soon on the podcast.
Oh yeah, of course. We'll update in a couple years.
All right. Peace out, guys.
Peace out.